guys, welcome back to Irish Footy Vlogs. Welcome back to another review show. We've got the FAI Cup semi-finals to review, and we've got three league games to review. Delighted to be welcomed by JP, who's obviously a happy man, having seen Derry City reach FAI Cup final for the first time since 2014. Isn't that right?
Yeah,
Yeah, and they lost that one. Won't mention to who, but there you go. They won't lose to them this time.
we were due to lose one day, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly. Shelbourne, actually, just before we get into Derry, it's 2011. They also lost as well, but they were beating the penalties to Sligo actually. But
The Sligo, they had a man sent off that day too,
yeah, absolutely. So like something's
early
coming
on.
here, isn't it?
They
To
were
be
first
fair, but
division that year.
yeah, exactly.
Um,
Uh,
the following year, Derry beat them in the semi-final after replay.
yeah,
They
so there's a bit of history there. So I think before
Yeah,
we get in, we're going to get into it now. But I think most of us kind of favoured that Derry. We felt the Derry Shelbourne final. I just had a sneaky
yeah,
suspicion Shelbourne would get through.
yeah.
But we'll get into
It's a throwback to the late '90s because mid the late '90s and early millennium too. But both Derry and Shelbourne would have a bit of quite of a rivalry, and there was a couple of FAI Cup finals in there too, and it was a League Cup final in 2006, and they were always feisty affairs, let's say the least.
absolutely. Now, Derry City beat Treaty United by 2 goals to 1. And, before we get into obviously Derry's great achievement, them getting to the final, I have to give Treaty an awful lot of credit here because I was down at Waterford and Shelbourne, which we'll talk about later on, but I seen the score on my phone Derry 2, Treaty nil after 20 minutes. I thought, oh no, you know what I mean? They're going to get right hiding here. But fair play to Treaty, 2-0 down after 20 minutes, could have easily caved in and lost heavily. Managed to get back into the game through an end the current penalty, his 19th goal in all competitions this season. And not great defending actually for Derry for that, but we'll get into that later as well. And they nearly nicked an equaliser at the end. Armshaw rang through, and I didn't realise how close it was until I seen the replay. That was close, very close, and that could have been extra time. So Treaty, I'm not trying to say I'm not being patronising here or anything, but the character they shown after going 2 down early on was fantastic in a game where Derry, that's 9 wins in a row for Derry against a really good side, and they can take a lot of credit for that. Although they probably will be a little bit disappointed in the end, which I suppose is testament to them as well. JP, isn't it?
Yeah, as you say, after 20 minutes, 2-0 up, you're probably expecting Derry to go and get a third, kill the game off, and then see the game out, and didn't materialise that way. They got very sloppy. They had numerous opportunities to clear the ball. I think when Donegan keeps the ball in, I'm not quite sure who it was, played the ball back to him, and maybe just wasn't the wisest decision. Maybe just clear your lines and whatever, and put Donegan under pressure in, and he's tried to pull out, and he just can't quite stop himself. And to be fair to Nate Doyle, he was in a good position. They award the penalty. But a great start from Derry. Like they really got at Treaty from the off. They did a couple of chances before they even scored, and the first goal was a brilliant goal, brilliant play by Patrick McGlynny. As Tommy Barrett touched on in his aftermath interview, he runs off a defender and he picks up a ball in space. You can't give him that space, and he just dribbles in the box and puts it on a plate for Jamie McGonigal, who we know has struggled for goals in recent months. But you put that on a plate from him, he's going to gobble it up, and that's exactly what he did. And
It's
then
still a
Derry just
decent finish though, wasn't it? Because there was a couple of
yeah,
defenders there. He could have easily
yeah,
missed. Really, it
he could
wasn't a
have very
simple
easily
finish.
he could have very easily hit somebody with it, like, and not only that, it wasn't like along the ground either. It was kind of lifted a wee bit, so he had to control it. And then you watch the replay and you see how close it came to hitting the defender on the line, but you see he pulled his hand out of the way, so he's probably thinking, you know what, it hits my hand, it's a red card, it's a penalty, it's a red card. Well, whether it's instinct that he pulls his hand, or but you know what I mean, like, red card, and it's game, it's literally game over. But then when Kavanagh heads that second goal, you're just thinking, if we can go now and get a third and really kill the game off, and we didn't do that. And I suppose that's what's going to separate. That's what's going to make Derry a great team in the next few years, is if they get into this position when they go 2 goals up, they go and they get a third and they kill the game off. And I know we're at the start of our journey this year, so these wee wobbles are in matches and seasons are to be expected. But as we progress in the next season and beyond that, you'd be expecting that we're going to go and we're going to get that second, that third, and really kill these teams off. And but look, whenever penalty was awarded. And the Kern, he doesn't miss much. And
Actually, wasn't
it was a great penalty from him right down the middle. But I think at 0-0, he saw Brian Maher off his line. He went for one from a halfway line, and Tommy Barrett absolutely gave off to him because you could see from Tommy Barrett, he knew his team was going to struggle to get the ball. And when they did get the ball, they had to make use of it, and that was just cheap possession that ended to give them back. And I felt sorry for him for most of the game because he was a lone ranger up there. He was literally on his own. After the 20 minutes, you could see then that Treaty changed their approach. They became more compact. They Derry playing, stopped Derry kind of playing in between the lines a wee bit. And we didn't get the space in between the lines. I think their midfield dropped a wee bit, and it sort of created a gap between Enda Kern and the midfield. And but the wee guy Armshaw on the right hand side or on the wing, where he was playing left in the first half, I think he played right in the second half. He was he was unbelievable for the 90 minutes. He's a wee midget, he's a wee tiny thing, and the skill on him is
he? Did he
absolutely
put himself in the
fantastic.
shop window a little bit? Do you think?
Oh, he absolutely did. He absolutely did. Um, and I tell you, if he'd scored that equaliser at the end, um, it would have really put his stock really high. But look, it's going to for any team, and I'm not being disrespectful to Treaty, but there's going to be other teams, better teams in the first division next year that could potentially maybe looking at him. Like some maybe Galway if they don't go up, or um, uh, if Waterford maybe miss out in promotion, you know what I mean? Or maybe Cork might take him for a Premier Division, whether it be built for that sort of Premier Division. But look, he's a damn good player, and I could see in a few years' time he'd be up there and playing in the Premier Division. Whether that's with Treaty or another club will be interesting. But look, they came up. It was probably they were probably coming up expecting to lose, but what they would have wanted to do was they would have wanted they make a fight of it, and that's what they did. But to be fair, although Derry won 2-1, it could have been more comfortable. We did have straight after their penalty. Donegan puts a great ball in the box, and McGonigal heads over, and then Glass had one blocked on the line. Then I think there was another one, another header, a couple of headers went over the bar. Jack Brady's made a couple of saves, so it wasn't vintage Derry, but they did dominate the game, and they really deserved they go through in the end up.
Yeah, I suppose that's it as well. It's the fact that in many ways Derry had nothing to gain. They're almost expected to win 3 or 4-0, and then when you do see, as I said earlier, when they go up 2-0 up so early, they
Yeah,
probably did take their foot subconsciously off the gas as well a little bit. And as I said, the penalty gave away was very sloppy, wasn't it? To be fair, and a bit
yeah,
uncharacteristic.
very
Uh,
avoidable.
yeah, but they kind of they did what they had to do at the end of the day. Got to the final, like they were in a no-win situation as such, and they got to the final. But moving on to Waterford and Shelbourne, we expected this to be a tighter game, a tighter affair, and the finished Waterford 0, Shelbourne 1, Malloy after 16 minutes, and I was down the RC for this one. Really enjoyed it actually, but would have been nice to see a few more goals. I'm not going to lie, but it was. I've seen a few people say actually, JP, that Shelbourne didn't really play well. Now I know what you mean, but it depends what you mean by not playing well at times, because they didn't play this free flowing, football, and they dominated Waterford, and absolutely, it was lovely football to watch. But I find when a team puts in a plan and executes the plan, that's playing well, in my opinion. You know what I mean? That's what they
Yeah,
did. They simply did
yeah.
that in the
I think
game.
I think many people's perceptions of playing well is
Sexy
creating a lot of
football.
chances,
Yeah.
and the opposition goalkeepers making save after save. As you say, every manager has a different plan for certain stages in the game. Duff's plan at the start was obviously they get at Waterford and maybe try and get an early goal, and they did that. Once done that, they tried to get the second, they've hit the post. Then at half time, he's obviously changed that plan. They restrict Waterford, silence the crowd, and they executed that,
Mm.
and they thoroughly deserved to be in the final. Um, and look, some people, as I said already, play as you said as well. Playing well is executing what your manager wants you to do. Sometimes it's never pretty, but it doesn't need to be pretty. It just needs to be effective, and that's what they've done. And I think that's what Shelbourne do a lot. especially away from home, is when they get in front, they sit back and make themselves difficult to beat. We saw that in the Brandywell. They became the first team to beat Derry this year, and what they did that night was Derry took a lead, but what they did was they sat back and made sure that they were still in the game. And as soon as they got to a certain point in the game, they started to push forward, put Derry under a bit of pressure, and they got an equaliser and quickly went on and got the winning goal. And then they went back into that mode where they were going to make it difficult to break down. And that's exactly what it seemed that they done yesterday. Was once they got the goal, they pushed to try and get a second. It didn't come, so they reversed it and decided they make it difficult for Waterford. And um,
We failed to
uh,
do that, JP, didn't we? Because we know they've had
yeah,
a few gun home matches, if you like, in the last few weeks, and I just wonder if that was a little bit. They know they're not going down. They're not getting into Europe, and I just wonder if there was
probably
an
rubbing
element
their
of
hands when they saw that.
hiding what they were trying to do in a way against Waterford. But I thought Waterford. I was disappointed in Waterford's tactics. I must say it was. Look, it was very blustery down there. Very blustery down there. When they got on the pitch side, at the end of the game, it was even worse than I thought. But they kept playing this game where they were playing not direct balls, they were playing long balls. So a lot of them were up hoofy
Mm.
balls up in the air, agricultural stuff. There was a lot of that in the game. And that was a meat and drink for Shelbourne because Shelbourne obviously sit back generally, even when they're attacking, they have a lowish block, you know what I mean, as such. And they were trying these long balls and trying to get the likes of Junior and especially Patterson in behind. But it wasn't working because of the way Shelbourne were set up. They needed to try and get the ball through the lines if they could. They tried to do that a bit more in the second half, but they were too slow at doing it. And it was just like, I'm trying to think of the chances they had, in all honesty. Phoenix Patterson had a free kick from an angle that was about 35 yards out that Clark saved, but it was one of those comfortably where you knew it was coming, just knocked it over the bar. That was their best chance of the game, really. And, it's disappointing from Waterford point of view because big semi final, they'd beaten Pats, they'd beaten Dundalk as well. And they didn't seem to have a plan B. And they must have
Yeah,
had an idea that Shelbourne would play that way as well. And once Shelbourne got the first goal, they did have chances to make it 2-0. And they'd be disappointed. They didn't go 2 up at halftime, actually. But they never really, really visibly tried to change. And, even if you've players that are good, like, we know that they work best when they're trying to get in behind the fences. But now you need to try something different. And it wasn't there. And I don't understand. I can understand direct ball when you're trying to get in behind the back line. I get that. But in a windy kind of almost like a stormy conditions,
yeah,
just long balls. Like Shelbourne are
yeah.
physically stronger, by the way, than Waterford as well.
Mm.
So they're going to win every header and win second balls and stuff. So
Yeah,
I was
it
disappointed
just
in
seemed
that side of it from Waterford.
that they had a plan when that wasn't working, that they had another plan, but that other plan, as you said, was prevented from being executed because of the weather conditions, and they just didn't seem to have that plan of what can we do if the weather doesn't allow us to play plan B. Um, but look, for Waterford, yes, a cup final would have been nice for them. No bones about that. But I think at the start of the season, if you said them, would you rather reach the FAI Cup final or win promotion? Probably would have taken promotion. But doesn't make it any easier because you've got so close and you've already beaten 2 Premier Division teams along the way, including the current holders. Um, and it won't make it any easier for them. But Danny Sayer now will be trying to dust his team down and um get them ready now for the playoffs. And be prepared for whoever they have to play. And I had a laugh at Duff yesterday whenever he said about that this trumps everything that he's done in his career. Look, maybe if he goes on to win it, it could possibly.
It's getting caught in the moment, isn't it? Really, I
Yeah,
think.
I think so. And then he has a remark about little old shells and we shouldn't be here. I don't think anybody in League of Ireland terms would be using the word little old shells because they're far from it. Yes, for the last 15, 16 years, they spent most of their time in the first division, but that came because of what went on in the early millennium when they chased the dream of the Champions League, and they've built their club back and they built it back up again, and they're in the Premier Division now. They've come up a couple of times and they've gone down, and they kind of been a yo-yo club, and they're now looking for some sort of stability. And um, so I don't think anybody that no, Shelbourne will be calling them little old shells. Maybe the likes of Rovers or Bows, they have maybe a wee bit of a dig at them. But I just think, as you say, Duff's getting caught up in the moment. And look, it's fantastic for him to get this far in his first season as a manager. And um, if he goes on to win it, his stock will rise and could potentially see clubs from across England or Scotland coming looking for him, basically because of who he is, and he's won a trophy. And like, it's
Especially if he wins a trophy with little old shells.
yeah, if he can do little shells, he can do with anybody. That's what people say. So but look, fantastic from Shelbourne, and really looking forward to the final now against them, because they were once the enemy for Derry whenever I started following Derry in the late 90s and into the early millennium. They were the enemy. They were the team that we wanted to beat, and it all came from battles that we had in the 90s, going for the leagues and a few cup finals and stuff like that. And my memory was the 2006 title battle. Went right down the goal difference, and um it was really hard to take from us. And everybody who's followed the league that night and has ranted Stephen Kenny. So that's my memories of Shells, and I'm delighted now and looking forward to the 13th of November.
Yeah, best of luck to both sides. We'll get on to the league now, and two big fixtures on Friday. Finn Harps and Dundalk will start there. Finn Harps 1, Dundalk 2. McCarry on 18, Slevin OG on 43, and Jones on 86 minutes. And obviously, this result means that Dundalk are still third in the league on 59 points, and Finn Harps are still level with UCD, but UCD have a game in hand, both on 19 points. But Finn Harps do have a better goal difference, although that's been chipped away. There's only 6 in it now. There was a bigger gap. But
Yeah,
yeah,
they
I
play
watched
one another.
I watched the
Did you?
highlights of this and talked to a few people about it as well. And obviously Dundalk completely dominated the first half and went 2-0 up half time. McCarry's goal, believe his first goal for the club as well. Not really too sure what McKeown is doing there. I mean, he kind of just watches it go in and is looking at Barry McNamee, but surely you got to go for the ball. And if you take out Barry, tough. Sorry, Barry, if you're watching. But the second goal was a bit messy, to say the least. And I would say it typified Finn Harp's defending this season, if I'm honest with you. Cowan does okay to make the save, to be fair, but it comes out and just hits off 11 and goes in. Very messy goal. And it seemed all too easy for Dundalk. From Finn Harp's point of view, they improved a bit in the second half, but it was all too little too late. And Jones did score a good header on 86. He does give them that a bit of threat in the air, I have to say, that they seem to lack. And
Yeah,
like
but
that
Sean
first
Boyd
goal they
brought them.
conceded as well was a set piece as well. And Finn Harps, it's something that they have been poor this season, winning headers from set pieces and things. Something that you'd usually say that was a strength of Finn
Yeah,
Harps. And Dundalk would have been delighted because obviously after losing the way they did the Pats last week, if they dropped points here, the pressure would have been really on them. So it was a massive win for Dundalk to get. But it did seem very easy in the first half. And I think Oliver Horgan referred to that, it was too late in the second half as well. But yeah, look, Harps would be disappointed, to be honest, again. And just conceding, they seem to be easy to play against JP generally at the moment. I think that's the problem. They're easy to play against. And, you're looking at it now and you're kind of saying, if Dundalk could nearly have had one fixture after the defeat last week, this was it.
this was it.
Whereas even a year or 2 years ago, you're saying, God, if they go to Finn Harps now and get something.
Yeah.
But there you go. They went and won comfortably in the end, got the 3 points, keep themselves ahead of Pats. And I suppose start with them from their point of view. It is a big win, isn't it?
It's massive, because the defeat last week in Oriel Park has really ramped the pressure up for them between now and the end of the season. And Demons and Pats no doubt would have been sitting yesterday hoping that Derry beat Treaty. Although they would have expected it, but they would have been, because one of them know now that if they don't finish third, they've still got that cushion of maybe Derry winning the cup. But what they won't want to do, what they will want to do is they will want to secure that third spot, because that way then once the final game of the season's over, you can put your feet up, not worry about Europe, because you know you're going to be playing there in the summer. And you've done the job yourself and not relying on anybody. But talking about McKeown, like, I mentioned last week that I think there's a good keeper in there. He just has too many fluffy
Because he
moments.
made some good saves, but he's one of those keepers at the moment that looks like he can make a good save in a match and then let in a disappointing goal, let's say.
Yeah, yeah. Like we saw the header, was it against Shelbourne?
Yeah.
Um, the that after making a fantastic save previously, that they prevent an equaliser. So saw him last week in the Brandywell. I didn't think
There's
he
one
done
against Bowes as well that you would have been disappointed with.
yeah. I didn't think he done too bad for
Mm.
the Michael Duffy goal, but a lot of Harps fans felt that he could have done better. I don't know. He really is a good shot stopper, but as you say, for every 5 saves he makes, there's probably one mistake in there. And unfortunately for a goalkeeper, you're never remembered for your saves. You're always remembered for your
Now
mistakes.
again,
And
I'll say this again though. He's probably overworked as well.
oh, possibly and as you touched on, they're too easy to play against. They don't want headers anymore. Maybe is that where they're missing Dave Webster? We did
Big
think when he
time.
got
He's a serious loss to them because
we did think
we've gone on about the losses of the players and that, and to get him to lose him was a kick in the teeth as well.
yeah, we did mention that at the start when he
Yeah.
got the ACL that it was potentially going to have a defining moment in their season, and maybe if he had played most of the season, maybe they would have a few more points. You think
Mm.
about the last minute, the last minute equaliser against Derry in the Brandywell, and then the last minute
Mm.
winners for Derry in Finn Park, and potentially a few more points on the board for them. And I'm sure there's other late goals that they've conceded um that was avoidable. And like Rob Jones, I think what he brings to them is what they had from Sean Boyd last year. And that's probably Van Harp's most effective way. I know they do like to play pretty football times. They have done in the last year, so we saw a few times last year that they scored some good team goals. But I think their most effective way is they have a target man, and there's never a right way or a wrong way they play football. A manager plays his team strengths, and he has to do that. And Rob Jones gives them that. And um, it's just unfortunately for them, they haven't done enough of it this season. As you say earlier, they're far too easy to play against. And I seen it last week in the Brandywell. Derry were having far too much time and space in between the defense and midfield, and you very rarely did you see that. Um, when you're playing against Van Harps, they always made it compact. They were difficult to beat, and then players get frustrated. They pick up your silly yellow card. Rob Jones did it last week when they made a silly foul to Mark Conley out of absolutely nothing.
Mm.
Um, and look, for Harps, it's just about trying to, even if they get beat, it's about trying to keep a score down or maybe nick a goal. Even if they're getting bit 4-0, just go try and nick a goal. Keeps the score down. Keep because you say usually you're chipping away at that goal difference, and I think they're due. They play one another after this week,
Mm.
and when they go into that game, if one goal counts as two on the goal difference, so that's what they'll have to remember. So for Dundalk, great one, as you say, difficult venue to go normally, and especially after having lost the week before. But this season, this is a fixture that you would have wanted they pick to get yourself back in the race, and they've done that, and they just keep saying the St. Pat's shows what you've got.
Absolutely. Nicely onto that. St. Pat's 3, Bohemians 1 in the Dublin Derby in Inchicore. Serge after 7, Mark Doyle 48, Jamie Clark and James Clark, I should say, on 83, and Owalabi on 87. And I suppose this was important. The Pats won no matter what Dundalk did, and I suppose they did that. And I have to say, kind of comfortably enough, JP, to be honest with you. I mean, Serge's goal after 7 minutes set them on the way. He gets in 1-on-1, composes himself, to be fair, something that probably he doesn't do enough, finishes well. Ty Ryan a bit indecisive. I felt he could have come out though a bit earlier, though, to be honest with you. I think Feely actually does have a go with him if you see it in the highlights as well. And I'd say that's what he was saying. But the goal early in the second half after a good ball through from Forrester, which Bowles failed to deal with from Mark Doyle, for me sealed it. Pats looked like they were going to go 3-0 up more so than 2-1, but Clark's goal after 83 was a very good finish. Excellent finish. But there was no kick from Bowles after that. You're thinking, 7 minutes to go, are Bowles going to pile up the pressure, or Pat's going to sit back? Not really though. It's like it didn't really make a difference. Like, and obviously Olabi sealed in '87, and we discussed it before we came on the show. But I honestly don't understand. If the goalkeeper wants to tell me what Ty Ryan was doing there, I don't get it. He's what 25, 30 yards out, takes a strike down through the middle, an ordinary enough strike, and he dives to his left for some reason. It goes in the middle of the goal. I don't understand. It was like a penalty from 30 yards or something, but. Comfortable enough for Pats. Bowes did have a spell in the first half, I'd say, where they done okay though. But that was all they got from it in many ways. And Pats just keep in touch with Dundalk. Vital they do that. And yeah, the race is still there for Europe, I suppose, JP.
Yeah, and that was the most important thing for Bowes coming into this, or sorry, Pats coming into this was they either matched or better Dundalk's result, because now they just want to give themselves every chance they can to get that third spot. A week before, or 10 days before that, they looked to be out of the race for third, and they've battled back. They appointed Tolka, and they've gone and won late on at Oriel Park, and that's put them right back into the fight for third. So
Probably a little bit disappointed, JP, in all honesty, because technically they've actually got more points this season than Dundalk. But obviously the Sligo scenario has kept Dundalk above water. And I just have a feeling that might be crucial coming the end of the season there.
I thought I have mentioned that a few times in previous shows, and I don't want to mention it again because I don't want Dundalk.
No, because I think what it is that a lot of people said it to me that they're surprised Pats haven't taken over Dundalk yet. But that is one of the reasons why they haven't, like, to be fair, because their form has been much better. It's hard to believe they're behind them still. But obviously that result has edged it in Dundalk's favour, you know?
It is, and I did say when it happened that this could be crucial when it comes down to the fight for third, and it's proven that way as the season goes on.
There's nothing in the goal difference looking quickly as well. +1 for Dundalk.
Is it?
+1 for Dundalk. So, you know what I mean? You couldn't even say someone has an advantage there, you know?
Yeah. And if it goes down to goal difference, it's going to then go to goal scored if it's the same. So, and
Pats have 5 more goals
there.
scored at the moment, yeah.
Yeah, so it could go down to anything, really. I think Derry's last year was down to a point or something. And I remember sitting in Oriel Park, and our game was over, and we drew, and we were waiting on the result coming through from Sligo, and Sligo, I think, was 2-0 up, and then Georgie or was it 1-0, and Georgie Kelly
1-0, yeah.
Here we go. We either need to grab the win ourselves, or hope that Bows don't score, and then all of a sudden then the result came through, and it's just pure elation. And no doubt that Dundalk and Pats are going to have something similar, because just looking at the fixtures here, Pats are going to they've got Rovers next on Friday night, and that's the massive one. That's if they come out of that with anything, because Dundalk still have to go to Derry, which is in the last game of the season, so there's still a possibility for.
You can only take it, can't you, JP, game by game, because like we don't know, the title race may go to the last day and it might not, and that'll have big ramifications on that game, etc., etc. So you literally can only take it week after week, can't you?
Oh, you can, and it's like Pats can come out of anything with this Rovers game. Like, it's in Hala. It's going to be difficult for Pats to get something from it, because Rovers are good at home, but it's not impossible. They've beaten Rovers already this season, albeit in Shakur. But they just need to give themselves every opportunity. And with Derry having reached the cup final now, they know that even if they don't get third, there's still that possibility of getting in the back door, similar to how it's roles reversed, basically. From last year, is Derry were relying on Pats, and it could be the possibility of happening this year. But from a Bows perspective, just they haven't done anything in this game. What we haven't seen from them this season, they just conceded silly goals, cheap goals.
I have to
Go
say
for
though,
it.
from being there and being at the game, once again, James Clark for them, apart from the goal, forget the goal for a minute, stood out like a sore thumb. He was battling in the midfield that was completely dominating Bowes. And yeah, he was putting up a real fight. He was making those,
Yeah.
those runs he makes from midfield that he's capable of making through the middle. He's a very good ball carrier. He's a midfielder. He's a good ball carrier rather than someone who's going to necessarily spray the passes. He came up against a midfield that completely dominated Bowes and still came out with a lot of credit. So that tells you all you need to know about his quality and his character, though.
And when he signed for Bowes, Luke did say they were getting a quality player, and definitely one that Drogheda were disappointed to lose. And he's showing that. And like, we know the Bowes appointed Declan Devine on Friday, and we know he was on the stand, so he got a good look at him. And I'm sure he's one player that stood out for Declan on the night, and possibly could be a player going forward. Could be the engine and engine in the team for Declan maybe. Um,
He's a hell of a
so
job. I was going to get on to
I
that, but
was
now
just
that you
about to
mentioned
say that.
he does. He's a
He'll
hell of a
know.
job there. And it's a mess.
He'll
Like
know.
Declan Devine is a manager. I think he's done a great job at Derry City. I think he's been a very good manager. But I think the problem is the messiness of the situation that's led to Declan Devine getting this job. That's the
Yeah,
problem a lot of people
yeah,
may look at
yeah,
as such, isn't it?
yeah. Yeah, like he came in when he came in, the two times he was appointed Derry, they were kind of in a mess because the first time Stephen Kenny, the season I think finished in October, and Stephen Kenny didn't go to Rovers until Christmas Eve. So that was kind of like nearly
Yeah.
2 months that Stephen Kenny had been probably expecting the call from Rovers, and then it didn't come day near Christmas, so he didn't sign no players up. When Declan came in, Declan had literally put an entire squad together. He lost some of his best players. Um,
Mhm.
and then the second time he's come in, he's inherited a mess. We went from top of the league in June, they third from bottom by the end of the season
Mhm.
under Kenny Shields. And he's come in and he steadied the ship. He got us the fourth in the league, qualified for Europe, and we reached the League Cup final. He's been a manager for 4 seasons in the League of Ireland. He's qualified for Europe on three of those occasions, but he's got a hell of a job on his hands. They even make this Bulls team competitive again. Never mind trying to get them in the qualifying for Europe. So I
Question
think
is, does he have, what can he bring in as well? Does he have to stick with a lot of these players? This is going to be the
possibly,
question.
possibly, but I think one player he's got there is Junior, and he always got the best out of Junior when he had him here. Um, so he'll know what way he can work with him. Will he go searching looking for maybe other players that he's had with Derry? Maybe and convince him. I know he said in his interview that he's going to move to Dublin, which is what he needs to do. He's doing all the right things. And I think one thing that we can um that we know of Declan is he can steady a ship because he done it the last. It's whether then when he steadies that ship, can he take it the next level, which a lot of people felt that he couldn't at Derry. Um, um, whether he got the chance, remain that's for people to decide. But I think I think now the decision that Phil had already made at that stage, I think is being justified of where Derry are at now at the minute. And um, look, Declan's a brilliant fella. 100% top guy, and I really wish him luck at Bohemians.
Yeah, so finished Drogheda United 1, Shamrock Rovers 1 on Sunday, JP in the league. Burke on 26, Chris Lyons in 41 minutes for Drogheda. And the third time Rovers have played Drogheda ahead in the game this season. They actually haven't won in 90 minutes. They lost, they drew, and they obviously beat them in the cup after extra time. And it seemed to be a similar pattern to some of these games ahead of the game park because, again, Rovers started well in this game and they took the lead through Burke on 26 after a good play from Neil Ferrugia. But Drogheda then they seemed to drop it, and Drogheda got back into the game. And an uncharacteristic error, I have to say, from Alan Manis to let Chris Lyons score. However, Chris Lyons was very well to read it because in a normal situation, Foley's taking a shot there, the keeper spills it, and he probably collects it again. But Lyons is on it like a flash and scores the chance. And they had a chance then where Darren Markey played. This was earlier, I believe, I remember. He got in, and Lyons kind of seemed to trip over as he kicked it and went wide. But they were good value for the point, Drogheda. And we said this the other week that when they go on the bad run, they tend to go on a good run again. And picked up a win, obviously, the other week, and obviously picking up a point, and it's their point against the champions is fantastic. It also keeps the title race open, JP, because there's 6 points in it, and Derry have a game in hand as well. And every time we feel like there's a week where if Rovers win here, that's probably it. They're not getting the win, though, are they?
No. I think back in July, I think I said on the one of the review shows that there was a result that went a certain way, and I said that it guaranteed Rovers the league and it guaranteed Drogheda survival or something. I can't remember. Drogheda have got that survival with a few weeks to go, and with is it 3 games to go? 4 games?
3 games.
3 games?
3 games, yeah.
3 games, and Rovers are still not guaranteed to win the league. I thought after that Shelbourne game last week, that was it. It was done and dusted. But they've gone here, they've taken the lead, they've been pegged back, and they've lost Alan Manis to injury as well. So
they played a very strong team in this game. A very strong team in this game. The best team you would suggest that you would play if you're a Shamrock Rovers fan. You know that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it just shows that Europe has to be catching up. I know they're making changes every week, every game, but these players have put a lot into the first 5-6 months of season, and it's starting to catch up on them. And look, it's keeping it alive. They've got Pats on Friday night. That's a big one. Derry have got Shelbourne. So it could be game on Friday night, or it could be game over. But Drogheda, as we touched on, keep touching on, United ahead in the game park. They're absolutely difficult to beat. They've drew with Derry twice, and they've actually drew with Derry 3 times, but twice in head in the game park. They've drew with Rovers, I think, or no, they beat Rovers and drew with them, and then lost in the cup. But as you said,
Dundalk twice as well, for example.
Dundalk twice.
Yeah.
So they are a hard team. They decipher, and they've been kind of a bogey team for the top 3 this year. They weren't so much a bogey team for some past, but I always felt, Keith, when Rovers beat Shelbourne, I always felt that going to Drogheda after the back of a European game was going to be difficult for Rovers, and it turned out that way. And as I say,
they'd be disappointed on the fact that they went in front,
and
didn't win the game, I suppose. But as I said, Drogheda were good value for it, so it's not as if they snatched it, but still, you know what I mean. They did the same earlier on in the season as well.
Yeah, and the last 15-20 minutes was played with 11 against 10 in Rovers' favour, and I don't know where they threw the kitchen sink at them. Maybe somebody was there at the game or watching.
They did have a chance near the end there, but McCabe made a save. But you know, it was a good save, but it wasn't right in the corner or anything like that. So it wasn't completely kitchen sink stuff. Just on the red card as well, Gary Deegan's red card. Your thoughts on that one?
Oh, red card. Look, I know people say he hasn't meant it, and unfortunately, intent doesn't come into it anymore in the laws of the game. He just has to catch him in a certain place, in a certain way, and the referee's mind is made up. Unfortunately, the referee can only go by what the law book's telling him. The referee can't make up his own decision because the player has not meant it. Look, Gary Deegan, I don't think is that type of player. He's just gone in, he's mistimed it, and he has caught him in a very dangerous spot. Like, so, look, no arguments from me there from John McLaughlin. I think he's got the.
He kind of has no choice, to be honest with you. As you say, it's nothing got to do. I think some people do get confused sometimes, in terms of they think if a player say doesn't mean it, or he has to mean it, let's say, to warrant the red card. But it can be dangerous play. Anyone who's played the game at any level will know that as well. That you can go in with a tackle and say, "God, I didn't mean that," but really after hurting him, or that's a bad challenge, but I didn't mean it. But it's a red card, like you understand that, like you know what I mean. I think people get a little bit confused about that. That as well as that, you could go up for a ball, JP, for example, and it could be a very high challenge, and a fella comes in with his head, and your foot is right up there, and not connect. That could be a red card as well, because
I think contact has to be made for it to be red.
Does it have to be made? Yeah, definitely.
I think contact has to be made. Now, anybody wants to correct me on that?
But at the same time, that can be deemed as dangerous play also. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
Because,
know what you're saying. I
yeah,
know what you're saying. It could come down to the referee's interpretation, but
yeah.
uh, look, I'm not. I know I'm a referee and stuff like that, and I'm not trying to say that it. But um, I'm nearly sure contact has to be made for it to be a red card. In certain situations, I think if you're throwing a punch or throwing a kick, that's different. The
Oh, yeah.
intent, the intent was there. That's different. But
Sorry, ref, I missed them.
whenever it comes to a tackle, I think contact has to be made for it to be a red card. And sometimes when players are caught, they're put their foot up in the air, they bring the ball down, and all of a sudden the player comes in and he studs catches a player on the cheek. And some people say, as you say, some people say, oh, he hasn't seen him. He doesn't need to see him. He's caught him with his studs in the head, and unfortunately,
It doesn't make it any less nasty, does it, JP?
it doesn't. That's a red card. But look, I'm open to correction. As our like.
But the point is, if you make a mistimed tackle and you don't mean to hurt the player, it's still a red card if it's in this circumstance in the Deegan one. Red cards.
I think it was more. I think it was more mistimed from Gary Deegan than it was malicious.
Yeah.
I don't think there was any malice in it at all. He's caught him halfway up the shin, and unfortunately, look, I know there was a lot of debate over the the red card in the Rovers Derry game, the penalty incident. When you're looking at it, if I'm in the middle of the field and he brings him down, he probably doesn't even get a yellow card. But because the Derry players clean through and go, it looks harsh. But
I think that's what it is, JP. We see these things sometimes and we think that, and rightfully so, a lot of times they're harsh, but we understand that they're in the rule book that's the decision has to be made. Yeah. But you can still think it's harsh if you get me. But that's the decision. That's the rule book. They're the rules.
Yeah,
but maybe should the rules be changed? That's a different question.
Yeah, quite similar to Premier League last season. Reece James blocked the ball on the line, but his hand was there and it had his hand. But because the ball was entering the goal when it had his hand, he stayed in the same position. The referee saw the VAR screen and they had no option. They had to send him off.
It's more tough than anything. It's tough.
In reality, it's harsh.
It is in reality. What's the
in
rule?
reality, it is, and you can't.
And the referee can't change the rule on the fly.
He can't change it now. He can't change it for his own.
He might. A referee might think it's harsh himself, JP, in those situations.
It is like I've never met a referee that will apologize to the player and say, "Look, sorry, I have to send you off." They don't do that. Well, I don't do that. I go up, issue the red card, and then afterwards, then the player comes over and say, maybe ask why, and then you could maybe explain it, or if they come to you in a manner that's respectable, or if they're coming over in a row and you're like, step back, you see the match report. But sometimes players will come over and say, look, ref, what happened? But I remember sending the guy off for a handball on the line, and for me, it was harsh, but I had to give it. And then he's come to me then after and he said, ref, how long am I going to get? And I was like, unfortunately, I don't make that decision. I just put the report on, tell them it was a handball on the line, and then the disciplinary committee, they make a decision on the many matches. So, look, as I say, and we've touched on it already, things can look harsh, but the referee has to apply what's written in the law, and unfortunately, most of the time, what's written in the law outweighs common sense, and sometimes common sense isn't allowed to be used, because if you're using common sense for one, you're using it for the other, and then all of a sudden you lost control of the game, and the game gets out of hand.
No, I thought that was an interesting discussion point, and hopefully clears one or two things up for a few people as well. But we'll get on to just quickly talk about the incident, obviously, at the end of the match where there were fireworks essentially thrown at Shamrock Rovers fans. If anyone knows heading to Game Park, they'll know that there's a wall at the away section, so the Shamrock Rovers fans would have been kept in while the Drogheda fans were let go. Now, I found out, I've done my homework on this and made sure I got my facts right before I made a comment on it as well, because I don't like talking about things like this usually, if I'm honest with you. However, I've been told strongly that it wasn't Drogheda fans that actually threw those fireworks over. The guards had moved the Drogheda fans on by this point. Then Windmill Road, which is the section, if people don't know,
Yeah,
where
the
the away
car park,
fans
is it?
come out at the front of the actual ground, But that these were basically gurriers essentially that threw fireworks at in the direction of the pitch, and the Shamrock Rovers fans. One of them hit one of the volunteers as well, and some people look. It's poor and it's not good, and you'd feel sorry for the fans that were there because you've kids and stuff in there as well, and it would be scary when your fireworks being flung over a wall at you. And thankfully, no one was badly hurt, which is the main thing as well. But look, it's disappointing this time of the year. It's a society thing, unfortunately, with fireworks and bangers, and you see it happening
Yeah.
everywhere in the streets and all that kind of thing. And unfortunately,
But
these Gurriers will get away with it.
yeah, and unfortunately, they target they target football clubs, and it's the home club. Then they get tagged with that certain sort of element.
That's
And
why I
what?
wanted to find out for sure what happened, JP, before we actually
Yeah,
came on and spoke about it as well, because you don't want to
and
be saying something that you don't know anything about,
yeah,
basically.
and what these guys doing is don't realize is when you flip it round and your team goes down there and you go with them, you could then possibly and I'm not be targeted for something similar, and I'm not saying that Shamrock Rovers will do. I'm talking about any ground in the country, north, south, east, west, Scotland, England, wherever it happens, people get hard, and then all of a sudden, then they try and get their own back and stuff like that. So, look, really disappointing for Drogheda, for Shamrock Rovers, and hopefully the volunteer is okay. Uh, but very disappointing to hear that, and after a fantastic game, and look, hopefully everybody that was there is okay, and there's no injuries and no
Mm.
mental scarring as well for potentially a young child that was there.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's the main thing as well. Once there's no injuries, in which there hasn't been any major injuries, thankfully, is that you're always worried with little kids and stuff like that, because we're trying to encourage and get kids into games, and I see them at the games and they love going, and things like that can affect them. So hopefully, like, it doesn't affect any smaller Rovers fans that were there and that
Yeah,
kind of thing. And
yeah,
at the same time, it's a difficult situation for any club, because when you get Gurriers like that throwing things over the wall, and it's not part of the ground as such. And the Drogheda
yeah,
fans are actually gone by this point. The guards have even moved at this point, because I know that area well, and there's usually a lot of guards around. They would have seen if this was actual Drogheda fans, it would have been earlier where the guards would have been still there. But it
yeah.
clearly wasn't the case. And as I said, I've been told strongly that these were Gurriers as well. But yeah, like as I said, yeah, I suppose we'll wrap it up there, JP. Really,
Yeah.
thanks for coming
Thanks,
on,
Keith.
guys at home. Let us know what you think about the cup games, your team, the league games. Anything, any of the talking points, refereeing decisions, whatever you want. Subscribe to the channel, hit your bell notification button, and once again, thanks for watching. Thanks, guys. Thanks, JP.